Welcome back to TPCIO2, the one show on YouTube that welcome back to TPCIO2. I'm your host TPCIO2 and this is TPCIO2. Hold on. Excuse me. Now, the Houston Texans. I want you to think about something. I'm going to say things. I'm going to say a few words. Alright? Tell me what comes to your mind. Mediocrity. Matt Schaub. Losing. A bowl that looks like a vagina. Now, when you hear all these things, what do you think of? It's the fucking Houston Texans. This team is so hard to watch. It's sad. It brings tears to millions. Look at this bowl. That literally looks like a vagina. What would I? Look at a diagram. It looks like it. It's not even funny. And then, now, nobody cares about the preseason. Let's look at it real quick. Actually, first, let's go here. We're going to ignore 2022. Let's look at our team's history, our record history. In 2002, we went 4-12 for our inaugural season. Now, it's your first season. I understand. But we're in our 21st season, all right? Just keep that in mind. 2003, our second year as a team, 5-11, then 7-9, back down to 2-14, our worst record. We repeated in 2013. Then 6-10, 8-8, 8-8 again, 9-7, 6-10, 10-6, qualified for the playoffs. Now, note that every time the Texans make the playoffs, we lose in the divisional round or the wild card. Then 12-4, a really good year. 2-14 again. 9-7, 9-7, 9-7, all mediocrity. 4-12 in 2017. Very sad season. Next year, 11-5. And our second year with Deshaun Watson. Then 10-6. 2 years. Deshaun Watson's second set of years. Both did really well. It reminds you of the 2011-2012 days. Did well. We've only had 4 double-digit win seasons. Those are some good seasons. And you may remember 2019. The 2019 wild card was a symbolic rematch of the 1993 NFL wild card for the 92 season. The game was played in 93. Tell me if I'm wrong. Which was, until Saturday, the biggest comeback in NFL history. 35-3, a 32-point lead held by the Houston Oilers going into halftime. Famously blew in overtime, losing to the Buffalo Bills. Well, that happened kind of again. Bills were up at halftime, went to playoffs, Texans barely win it. That was really fun for Texans fans. No, I am also a Bills fan. Well, that game was mixed feelings. But, alright, well, what about next time? Alright, what about next week? The Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I thought this would be a bloodfest. But you know what? The Texans might be able to do it. The end of the first quarter. Texans, 24. Chiefs, 0. And, well, we don't need to mention what happened to the rest of that game. You know what happened the next year? 4-12. You know, it also happened that year. We lost. No, never mind, actually. We had lost DeAndre Hopkins that year. We had lost all of our receivers for that season. I hate Bill O'Brien. 4-12, 4-13 last year. Sad season. Now the Texans have always been mediocre or bad. This is record bad. After 14 weeks, the Texans have never had this low record. Let's see how we've done. Week 1 should show the mediocrity aspect. A division game versus division rival, behind the Titans, of course. Indianapolis Colts. 20-20, the tie. Could not have thought of a more fitting tie for the Texans. Next week, in Denver, 16-9, a loss. Next week, in Chicago, 23-20, held our own. Next week, here at home versus the Chargers, 34-24. Then, the Texans, right before their bye week, they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars away, 13-6. Now, maybe this could have pushed to the Las Vegas Raiders if it wasn't for that bye week. Now, that's a good thought. However, it's the Texans. They tied the Colts. So, after our bye week, week 7, in Las Vegas, in the brand new Allegiant Stadium, 38-20, a loss. Week 8, October 30th, the night before Halloween, in Tennessee, versus Tennessee, at Energy Stadium in Houston, 17-10, a loss. Week 9, primetime TV, baby, on a Thursday. Battle Red debuting new helmets on Amazon Prime for some reason. Now, in a very expected 29-17 loss. But what's important about that game is that same night, Houston beat Philadelphia in baseball in the World Series. Now, that wasn't the last game of the World Series, but it was still important because every game of the World Series is important. And the Houston Astros would beat the Philadelphia Phillies in the World Series. Come fight me. And so, nobody watched this game, even in Philadelphia, except maybe CDP 445 from his present cell. Next week, New York Giants at MetLife Stadium. It's 24-16. The Washington Commanders at NRG. A former Houston area player. With one player on each side coming from Atascocita High School outside of Houston. That being Samuel Cosme on the defensive line and Kenyon Green on the offensive line. Kenyon Green playing for Houston, Samuel Cosme playing for Washington. The Commanders beat us 23-10. A bunch of Texans lost to Commies. Next week, the Miami Dolphins. Very expected 30-15 loss. Next week, Cleveland Browns. What's important about this one? Excuse me. The Cleveland Browns. Home for the quarterback Deshaun Watson, who was ass in his return to football after a year and a half without it. He was awful, and they still beat us 27-14. Now, at AT&T Stadium, Jerry's World, at the Dallas Cowboys. Now, this is a state rivalry, technically, but it's more like Dallas beats us almost all the time, except for our first ever regular season game. First ever game, including the preseason, was against the New Orleans Saints, a win. First ever game in the regular season, Dallas Cowboys at NRG, also a win, thankfully. Now, a lot of people expected this to be a blowout. Come on, Dallas is okay, and the Texans have a tie and a win. A bunch of losses. Now, the Texans were 1-10-1 at the time. Now, the Texans almost beat the Cowboys. They were leading the game until the very end of the fourth quarter. Dallas scores a touchdown to beat the Texans. That's not funny. I don't know what is. The Texans almost beat the Cowboys, an interstate rival. Blows it at the very end. And being the snobby Cowboys, they act like they're so good, and they celebrate that win. You almost lost to a 1-10-1 team, but after that, heading into the Kansas City game, 1-1-1-1. The Texans record red. Next week, Sunday, the 18th of December. Another Cowboys. The Chiefs led their division. The Texans were 1-11-1. The game was tied at 24-all going into overtime. Kansas City scores immediately, almost. Because the Texans almost beat a decent team, a good team this time, and blew it at the last minute. This team is horrible. And the funniest part, they listed this game as homecoming. Remember a few years ago? Put on Letterman jackets and then get obliterated by New England? Well, now they're calling the Chiefs their homecoming. After one away game, homecoming. The professional football franchise, let's save this, Houston Texans had a homecoming game after one away game. What's next? The Tennessee Titans, which we all know will be a loss. The Jacksonville Jaguars. This will be the game of the week because it's two bad teams going up against each other. But you know what? I'm going to say it. I want you to listen real close. The Texans lose this game. Or at least get close. Or are the first team in the history of the NFL to have two ties. We already had two ties this season, almost three. We already had two ties this season. Why don't I give the Texans another one too? Oh, let's watch this. This must be fun. Wow, what a great highlight. From our preseason game. Alright, and then finally, after Jacksonville, which I think that the Jags might barely beat us, or we might blow them out. That's the other option. They barely beat us, we blow them out. Final week. It's a rematch of the team that we tied. The Colts, I say we lose it. I'm a call right now. The Texans are either 2-13-1 or 1-13-2. Or hold on, sorry. Hold up. Hold on, 1-14-2 or 2-14 or shoot. I can't count. 1. Sorry, so sorry. 1-15-1 or 2-14-2. 1-15-1 or 2-14-2. No way we win either of these two. The Colts or Titans. The Texans are historically bad for this franchise. Probably the league. Now, the players I think of the quarterbacks that I can name from the Houston Texans: David Carr, Matt Schaub, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Brock Osweiler, Deshaun Watson, Davis Mills, and then the other two. Hold on. There's Kyle Allen, and I don't know. It's a weird pronouncing name, but I know it. Okay. All right. Now who is Hoyer? David Hoyer? Brian Hoyer. I've heard of him. Hold on. Wait, you look so stupid. Anyways. Doesn't change my point. So look at the Houston Texans roster. Blake Driscoll, that's what it is. Still can't find it on here. But yeah, Blake Driscoll. Now, this is just a horrible, horrible football team. I hate it. I hate this football team, and I'll say it. What are these notable players? J.J. Watt, yeah. Andre Johnson, definitely. I miss that guy. Dwayne Brown, yeah. Matt Schaub, one of the top players. Okay. DeAndre Hopkins, Jonathan Joseph, Arian Foster. I knew that. Brian Cushing, Chris Myers, Whitney Merciless. Is that how you pronounce his name? I like the guy, just don't know how to pronounce his name. Deshaun Watson. Hey, Kareem Jackson. Sorry. This is just sad. He was a good running back. Well, this has been a bunch of rambling and probably really quiet. But I don't care. I just really, really hate the Texans. I think you should too. Bye-bye now.